On a cold day in October of 1066, the forces of William the Conqueror and Harold, the King of England, clashed in a battle that would change England of the day and had a lasting effect on our modern society. Hi, my name is Daniel Wallace, and I'm a third-year history student of BYU, Idaho, and I'm going to be talking about the Battle of Hastings. The battle was fought over the matter of the succession of kings from Edward the Confessor, who was the King of England. He named his successor William, who was then Duke of Normandy, but Harold, who was in England at the time, saw his chance to take the throne from William and did so. Um, and so what ensued was the Battle of Hastings, or also known as the Norman Conquest. This battle took place on October 4th, 1066. During this battle, Harold was killed, and William took over the throne from him. This battle led to changes in England of that day and had a lasting effect on modern society. It affected the language of English, it changed the agricultural technologies of the day, the government of the day, and it had many other lasting effects, um, such as effects on trade and nationalism. William, who was the Duke of Normandy, brought with him a lot of his French customs, his language, his values, French people. Um, and the most lasting of the effects that he brought with him from his French background was the French language. About 28% of our modern English language comes from French, has a French root. Much of this transition from the old English that we have today, that we had before, and the English that we have today, came from this battle because William brought his French with him. He also brought his French nobles and other things like that helped to affect the society of the day. But a big and lasting effect that he had was he changed the way English was spoken, because not many of the nobles or many of the knights that he brought over cared to learn English because they won. Why should they? And so when they came over, those Frenchmen, they came and they rode on horseback. And it was the first time that cavalry had ever been used in warfare, mostly because of the invention of what's called the stirrup. But this addition of horses, bringing forth the addition of knights and other things like that, one of the big thing it did was having more horses led to more horse technologies, specifically in agriculture. One of the biggest things with horses was you couldn't use them before because they would choke when they were trying to be pulled by a plow. And so one of the things that was invented by William the Conqueror and his people was a padded horse collar, which helped to have the horse pull steel plows that could help to better make the fields more plantable for their seeds, which led to a growth in agricultural yield. Other technologies that came with them were things like the water wheel and the three fields system and other things like that. But because of the surplus that came from these technologies, there was increase in trade from nations, and there was which led to things like taxes, which led to things like cities. It grew society of that day from just the villa system that was used in Rome to a more modern society where we have cities and countries and nations and people that were different than the way they were then. And that was a really big deal because of these agricultural technologies, that people started to move and to change. Another thing that came with the battle was it started to show the downfalls of the feudal system. The feudal system was the system of government that was used at the time that dealt with the lords and the serfs, and basically what would happen was the lords would give what's called a fief, or a little plot of land, to a serf or a servant, who in return, because they were indebted because they gave them the land, would provide knights, they would provide cavalry, they would provide different things for the lord, they would provide money and taxes and other things. And so at that time with the feudal system, many people had thought of just their nations as just simple, plots of land, as opposed to groups of people, because the feudal system was just simply a system where they didn't care about where the peasants went or what they did. They just used them for work and they gave them food because of it. It just really was a system of lords and didn't matter. There was no really nation state. And this started a transitionary period where people actually mattered. One of the ways we can see this is through what's called the Doomsday Book, which was something that William came up with when he came over to England. And basically what it is it's the first census. He counted his people, he recorded his people, he had a record of it, and they called that the Doomsday Book. And so this is kind of, we can start to see this transition, not only just say it, oh yeah, this is when we started to happen. We can see with physical proof that they didn't just think of these people as just random strangers that would just come and work their land. They were actually people. They were servants. This is the start of modern nationalism, really. Um, it changed the way England of the day worked um, in many ways because of these subtle little changes. Um, and the reality of this battle is that we don't really know about it. We don't really talk about it. But the importance of it is paramount because we can see that it had lasting effects on not only England of the day, but on our modern society. We can see it through the language, we can see it through the people, we can see it through nationalism, we can see it through many different ways. But the biggest thing is that it needs to be remembered. For me, I've always thought about being a history major that we need to know our past to know what's going to happen in the future or prepare for it or learn from it. And a big part of our past came from the Battle of Hastings. Ironically, it's also where, just a little side note, was where we landed during World War II on D-Day. So, um, really what I'm trying to get at is the fact that the Battle of Hastings is part of our past. It's important. We need to know about it because it has so many lasting effects on our modern society. And so that would be my thing, is just to learn about it. So thank you for listening.